here with Leo Perea. It's awesome to meet you, man. We did a Zoom podcast, and we decided, hey, we're right down the street from each other.
We realized we're one county away.
I know, we're just neighbors, man. So it's awesome to be here with you.
That's actually one of the coolest things about our company. It's completely virtual, and when I talk to people, they're always like, I'll feel disconnected. And I actually tell people that I think the human connection that we experience because we're virtual is even better. Yeah. Right? Because it's always intentional.
Correct.
It's not like I ran into you at the copier. It's like I made a decision to spend time with you.
Yeah.
Whether it's at an event or one-on-one like we're doing right now. The virtual thing to me is saving on fixed overhead, but then the human connection part is even better in person.
Yeah, and because the way that the company is structured, our interests are in complete alignment. So what I'm doing is I'm meeting with another owner.
I actually talk about that a lot. I had never really understood multi-level marketing or direct selling. Mm-hmm. And now I get to run the third largest direct selling company in the world.
Yeah.
Right? That was news to me when I got here. And I went to a direct selling event and found out, I was like, oh, wow, it's like Amway and a couple others and us.
Yeah.
And actually the way that I normally need parallels in my brain to just put stuff in buckets.
Sure.
And for me, our revenue share model is a newer asset-light aligned version of franchising was 10, 20 years ago.
100%.
Right? I owned a franchise. I was a small member of the cap table. But what I've learned and experienced is that's actually a confrontational, friction-full experience.
Yes.
Because, I owe them fees and they sell me stuff. They make me go to stuff. They make me sign up for stuff. And they get paid off the top.
Yep.
And then I'm left over to make ends meet. And it's always like a give and pull.
Well, and what you're describing is the principal and agent problem. So if somebody went to business school or whatever, an MBA, what they teach you is that principals and agents are at odds with each other. So principals in a company, they want something. They want to keep as much money as possible. The agents or the employees want the opposite. They want to keep as much possible. And what they say is whoever solves for that principal and agent problem the best wins. And when I was looking at these models, because I used to own part of a franchise, I sold it back in order to participate in this opportunity. I felt the exact same thing that you did, that there was friction. And it was very clear that even though it was a little better, it was still hierarchical. One person got the lion's share of everything, everybody else gets crumbs. And what I realized in studying this model is that this solves for the principal and agent problem the best. It's not perfect, but it's the best. Where now my interests are direct in alignment with the company. I get to become an owner through equity. You'll never get rich trading time for money. You must own equity. I get to share in the revenue that the company produces. And what's wild is I know this is to be true, and this has nothing to do with you. I did a leadership retreat this year where we took leaders in our organization to the Dominican Republic. You had no idea I did that.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly fine. This becomes, in hierarchical models, what you end up with is weak leadership. Because if you want an A+ opportunity, or A+ talent, you need A+ opportunity. So because it's hierarchical, what ends up happening, and me and you are an example of that, when A+ talent rises to the top and there's no more opportunity, what do?
They leave.
They leave. What this model does is it becomes a super highway for leaders, where it basically is saying, hey, here's a platform. You can do whatever you want with it. You could build as big of an empire as you would like. We're just the platform, the operating system underneath.
Well, I'm sure you've heard me say it. That's actually how I describe the company, right? We are an operating platform that allows real estate entrepreneurs to build whatever size dream they want.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a well-known data nerd.
Yeah.
And so when I first got here, my obsession was just understanding who we are and what our population is. Right. So some fun facts that you can share is 29% of our agents have one or more people in their downline.
Wow.
Which was higher than I expected it. But then I clicked a second number down and I was really curious about 3 or more. Because to me, 1 could be an accident. 1 to 2 is an accident. 3, it feels like you're trying.
Yeah.
And when you go down to 3, it's only 14%. And so, again, that's not good or bad. That's just is, right? So one thing it told me is 86% of the people here just to sell homes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so, I've never forgotten that we're a real estate brokerage.
First.
So my obsession in the 2 years I've been here is operational excellence. How do I pay you faster?
Yeah.
How do I answer your broker support questions faster? How do I close the loop on any issues, right? And To me, it's like, let me start with the super important, not sexy, and make that experience amazing. Because unlike other opportunities for folks like you actually are completely relying on the lion's share of the experience on us.
Correct.
Right? Like you could be the best attractor in the world and create the biggest opportunity. But if onboarding sucks, or broker support
Yes.
sucks, or it takes 2 weeks to pay somebody, who's staying?
Yeah, so what I think is huge about what you just said is I am very clear, EXP is my operational partner, right? So you guys operate. My job is to bring people to the opportunity and then to add tremendous value, right? Your job and the team's job at EXP is to make the operation excellent. And together, because we're all owners, we're all building something together.
The other thought that you just reminded me of when you were saying about your leadership retreat, I asked Glenn a ton of questions when I got here, and just like, I always like to understand the legacy, because there are things that are put in place for a good reason, especially when you have smart people, right? Like if I see a system or a rule where I'm like, hey, before I go touch anything, let me ask a bunch of questions. But one day I was asking him like the differences in models where in other systems there's a leader, and the people who help attract just kind of bring him to the doorstep, if you will,
Sure.
and let the other people do the work.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the distinction. Like that person takes them all the way to the finish line. Right. And the way he explained EXP in his original vision, and what definitely came out of it, is we're an experiment in distributed leadership.
And explain to me what you mean by that, because I think I'm clear, but
Yeah, no. So in most systems, like if in traditional, I know any real estate company, any food company that has franchises, right? Like there's typically a master regional owner.
Yep.
Country owner, right? You sell Europe, Asia, Latin America, the Midwest, the Northeast, the Southeast. And so there's this person who kind of drops in and evangelizes, and then that person then sells the franchises. And so they get to participate in the total upside. And then there are folks who become super kind of franchise owners, regional owners, of like 5 or 6 or 7 stores. And again, this could literally be McDonald's, real estate companies, to, and fill in the blank, any franchise shop, Subways. And then some people end up with 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so the revenue opportunity could be, enough to provide for one person's lifestyle.
Sure.
To a multi tens of millions of dollars operation with staff.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm talking about Burger King to real estate offices. So what I see that was created here is someone can kind of tiptoe in and say, hey, is this for me? And do a little bit of it and add 20 grand a year to it, like where your cap's covered and you're basically a 100% company, to, 6 and 7 figures a month in revenue.
Correct.
And at that point, you're basically a multi-regional owner.
Yes.
Right?
Without
or
any
multi-office owner.
Without any expenses, major expenses, leases.
I was going to say,
yeah.
the big difference is without a 10 or 12 year franchise agreement.
Yes.
Without a 10-year lease on 20,000 square feet.
Correct.
Right? Because what I always want to be clear about is the folks who do really well then treat it like a business, right? That's why the platform statement, like those are very specific, like 9 words that I've crafted together, because I want to be a platform, and I'm hyper aware that like 68, 70% of our agents are solo producers and will sell 5 to 12 homes a year.
Great.
And I want to be the very best platform for them to do that.
Yep.
Then we have other folks on the extreme side of the production fence. Like our number 1 team this year is probably going to do 1,200 units with 65 people, right? And we'll probably have 1 in the US and 1 in Canada that do 1,200. Like Justin Haver and Matt Delhoon, Kenny Fast team, and Kyle Whistle will be right behind them. In the US, you will see who Parker Pemberton's coming up right behind them. But Jennifer Jones and everybody else will give Justin equal run for their money in Canada.
Sure.
So we have folks that are running $10 to $20 million GCI businesses. Like that's bigger than most brokers ever get to.
Yeah, sure.
And so we need to be able to support people closing 80, 100, 150 transactions a month, right?
Yeah.
There's entire franchises in real estate that don't do that. And we just have them. We have multiple teams in certain cities that have that kind of production.
Yeah.
So our platform has to be scalable and have to have the support and inputs to support those level of businesses.
That's super interesting. So this conversation is helpful because it's helping me to have some clarity, which is one, the platform, to your point, needs to be operational excellence for the agents doing lots of units all across the spectrum, whether it's 2 to 5, 10, or thousands. What it also is doing is an experiment in distributed leadership. So the people who focus on the opportunity of, let's say, attraction, they realize this is a regional opportunity without franchise agreements, without,
It's a global opportunity.
It's a global opportunity.
We have very successful attractors who are just dominant in their physical geography.
Yeah.
And then we've had folks who cross all kinds of lines.
Right. So like right now, I've been with the company 26 months. We're in 15 states. So I was on a call with someone who was trying to present me with what he thought was a good opportunity. He's like, yeah, you'd have to sign this 10-year thing. I'm like, you realize I have the same opportunity. I have to sign anything. And I could do it anywhere, not just this little region in California. So the company is really doing two things. One is that operational excellence for the agents and units and volume and all that. And then operational excellence with distributed leadership, which are the agents that see the opportunity in terms of attraction, it lines within their skill sets, and they go aggressively after it. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's where the platform statement stands, right? Like you can be a solo producer, you could be a small team, you could be a mega team.
Yeah.
You could attract, I was on a call 2 days ago with an agent who's a solo producer, $45 million, solid producer, right? Yeah. And he had me on an attraction call with a very big team. And I asked him, I said, what do you make a month? And he said, 10 grand, but I spend 5 hours a week on it, right? So it's not his focus. He considers production his focus.
Yeah.
And again, 5 hours may sound low, but that's still 1 hour a day, right? It's still a pillar. But when you think of that person's iconing, so they were at 100%, pretty much. And then they're pulling in an extra $120,000. That's a pretty cool opportunity.
Well, and what they're doing, so I've been saying this for 4 or 5 years, because if you look at the macro, I think the macro is an example of the micro. So the macro is brokerage. The problem that they're having is that they're having to deal with the following. The net company retained dollar to brokerages has gone down 50% over the last 50 years. So it used to be if a brokerage took in $1, they kept 50 cents. Now it's like 10 cents. That's a huge problem. They're also dealing with a massive decline in revenue when you go from 6 million to 4 million transactions. Plus with the NAR thing, I think with a high degree of probability that there may be some compression in terms of professional fees.
If I were betting, I bet it goes down, not up.
Right, me too. On the buy side. So all of that, what I share with people is, look, cash is oxygen to a business. After the rah-rah and the marketing, Warren Buffett says in the short term, the stock market is a voting machine. I think. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. Who's actually making money? So if I look at the macro, it's happening on the micro level too, right? It's the same issue. Now, the way that the macro dealt with it was to become vertically integrated on ancillary services, right? Well, what this platform does, and what I share with agents all the time, it allows me to be vertically integrated, where I get equity in the company that I'm helping to build, right? An S&P 600 company. I also get this other opportunity, which stands next to me, which makes up for any compression in commissions. And that's really what you're saying, right?
And also understanding that like our core business model is profitable and sustainable.
Yeah.
And so we don't actually need to monetize the agents and turn them into a product. Like I keep you on the partner side. And I actually said that to people, I'm like, listen, if an opportunity isn't profitable, meaning like at the unit economic standpoint, they lose money every time they close a transaction.
Yeah.
At some point they will monetize you.
They have to.
Right? Whether it's their ancillary or the model shifts.
Which I'm already seeing, where I was on a call with a brokerage in Chicago, and here's what they said, Leo. If you don't do 10 million in volume, your split's higher. If you don't use our ancillary services, your split's higher. That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Which, again, I'm in the business of partnering with the very biggest producers.
Yeah.
Again, like I know the avatars across our spectrum, but like I'm quite proud that our top 250 teams sold north of 69,000 homes. As a standalone independent company, those top 250 teams would have been the 6th largest independent by transaction count in the United States. Right? And the companies in that ranking are 18, 20,000
Which I think is great, because one of the things I hear from people is like, oh, you guys just care about like attraction. It's like, nah, dude, we do the most units.
Period.
Period.
And our per person productivity is on the high side compared to like other national companies. And so what I realized early on when I got here is I'm never going to disproportionately collect ancillary services, because when you're doing business with companies that have 10, 15, $16 million in gross commission income, those are fully integrated companies.
Yeah.
They own their ancillaries.
Yes.
And I need to make sure that my platform allows them to plug and play and support that, right?
Yes.
We want to be able to give you all the legal advice and make sure the ABAs are compliant and that you're staying on the right side of RESPA and all the stuff. But like, if I had to figure out how to make us valuable by monetizing you, I would have a hard time attracting the most productive people.
Today, we interviewed a billionaire. Have you ever interviewed a billionaire before?
First time.
First time. What exactly is an FLQA?
And what percentage of Amazon does
Bezos owns like 10%.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
People think that you have to own 100% of something, and they won't give pieces of the pie away.
Once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent. It's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
We're a family, kumbaya.
We're a family, but if you watch their actions,
No.
their actions are completely different
Agreed.
than what they're saying. So this is the part that I was tripping out. How much production would you have to do to own a piece of your brokerage?
I always ask agents, I'm like, did you go to the office? And they're like, no. And I'm like, did it matter? Let's check it out.
Hey everybody, Jose Luis Morales here and
Aaron Novello, and we have with us the founder of EXP himself, Mr. Glenn Sanford. We really appreciate you taking some time to be with us here today, Glenn. And I wanted to say to you formally, thank you very much for the opportunity, for seeing what it is that you saw, and for having the kind of mindset and the mental map that as you give away pieces of the pie gets bigger for everybody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the and that is the sort of the basic secret. You saw the one slide yesterday. Somebody had the Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have anything you want in life if you just help other people get what they want."
Yes.
And that's the whole idea. That's the idea of the pie always getting bigger, based on creating ways to help more people.
Yeah, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that very big decision, which is directly in alignment with that, which is to lower the amount of FLQAs that are required in order to unlock all 7 levels. Was that part of that decision-making process?
Yeah.
When Glenn was answering that question, I wanted to break that down, right? Because one of the questions that me and Jose get all the time is, what exactly is an FLQA? And it stands for Frontline Qualifying Agent. And what it means is that if you have brought somebody to the company and they've put you down as the reason why they joined the company, then if they do at least $5,000 worth of commission dollars to EXP, right? So there's a $16,000 cap, and as long as they pay $5,000 towards that cap, they become an FLQA. And the FLQAs, the certain number of them, they unlock subsequent lines of rev share. Now, this is a very key distinction, because some of the things that me and Jose, people have been sharing with us is they think, about like Real or these other companies. And what I want to share with you right now is that Real has a different compensation plan where you must have a certain amount of FLQAs in order to unlock subsequent lines of rev share. And if you don't have those FLQAs, you will receive no rev share on those subsequent lines. Versus with EXP, you will receive rev share on subsequent lines even if you don't have the appropriate number of FLQAs. It just won't be the full amount. So if you're interested and sincerely going to be focused on agent attraction, that's a super key distinction between compensation plans.
Yeah. What I liked about that part of the interview too is I liked how you opened it up with a compliment.
Well, thank you.
So I think that's a really good way to start and I've noticed you do that a lot of times.
Yeah.
Whenever you start talking to somebody, you either say, "Oh, I watched this video of yours," or "I appreciate you," or "I appreciate that."
Yeah.
I think that's a gift. So just want to compliment you on that.
Thanks, brother.
The other thing that I noticed is that he said if you help enough people get what they want in life, you can have anything that you want.
Yeah.
And that's really the key to having anything that you want in life, is you're helping other people get what they want. So like, even as I transition more into rev share, what I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to help people produce more in real estate,
Which is what they want.
which is what they want, and that's going to give me everything that I want and need, basically. But in order for me to get to what I want, I got to help them get to what they want.
Yeah, that's critical. And the other thing that I want everybody to be clear on too is that EXP very recently made a big change. And the change is previously the compensation plan was in order to unlock all 7 levels. So in other words, in order to get full rev share on all 7 levels, you're still going to get it on all 7 even if you don't have the appropriate frontline qualifying agents. In order to get the full amount, in the past you needed 40 FLQAs. So you needed 40 agents that you personally have recruited that have paid at least $5,000 in company dollar, right? So they do a few transactions a year, and they recently lowered that to 30.
Yeah.
And what was so interesting and what you'll see when we, go back to the video is the thought behind that. The reason behind that is that Glenn wanted to make that more attainable for more agents, right? Which I think is awesome. And in my opinion, it's also slamming the kind of the gas pedal down, in terms of growth. And again, that goes in alignment with as you make the pie, as you give pieces of the pie away, the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That you read my mind about sharing a piece of the pie. A lot of people think that the way to make it is to sometimes even run their own company or start their own company.
Yeah.
And they'd rather own 100% of a $500,000 company versus 1% of a $1 billion
That's
company.
right.
Like what is Amazon? What percentage of Amazon does
Bezos own? Like 10%.
Of Amazon.
Yeah.
And he's that 10%.
He's like one of the richest guys in the world, if not the richest.
He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
So
same with Elon. He only owns like 20% of like his company.
And that's what I love about that. Like a lot of times people think that you have to own 100% of something, like any type of business, and they won't give pieces of the pie away, not knowing that if you give pieces of the pie away, it actually builds a much bigger pie. And even if you have a 10% percentage, like maybe somebody like Glenn or Elon or Jeff Bezos, that you're still a billionaire in that sense.
Yeah.
And now everybody's in alignment as to what the goal is.
Yeah.
Because everyone's thinking like an owner now.
100%. And that's one of the things that we talked about, which is that what it does is it creates an environment in which all of the agents and all of corporate, they feel a sense of ownership versus having like a king at the top or a queen and they own the majority. This is distributed amongst others. And once you get people thinking like owners, they treat the business differently. They treat the company differently, for sure.
Not only that, but it allows you to attract A players as well too, because it's an A opportunity.
Yep.
Like, for example, like I have a broker's license. I could open up my own real estate company if I wanted to. I know agents in my market that opened up their own brokerage. And I'm like, well, why would I go through that where this gives me everything?
You can outsource the brokerage to EXP
without any of the negative or downsides of a brokerage, basically. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
All right, so let's get back to it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we recognized is that for very diligent agents that are really building, there were a couple things. One, the economy is a little tougher, so we got agents that are just leaving the business less productive. So it's harder to open up those bigger levels.
Sure.
And then two was we wanted to make it more achievable for the average agent who actually put in the work.
Sure.
And so those are the two things that we thought about. Obviously, we've got some we'll call it some formulas in terms of how we structure the sustainable rev share and adjusted GCI. And the idea was, one, let's make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using some of that other monies to go there. And it really makes it a much more democratized rev share model. And that's really sort of the democratization. So it's not just a select few. It's actually more well-rounded in terms of the rev share.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So my takeaway from that is that by augmenting and making it easier to unlock all 7 levels, it's actually being purposeful and intentional to help more people participate at a higher level.
So he's basically giving more money away.
Yes.
What I love about this part, it just showcases how great of a CEO Glenn Sanford is.
Yeah.
I think one of the models that he has is that EXP is the most agent-centric company, meaning that they're consistently going to be making decisions that improve agents' lives. And this is one of those decisions right there. So what came to my mind is there's a lot of companies out there, or a lot of people that will say, I've got your best interest at heart. I'm going to take care of you.
We're a family, kumbaya.
We're a family. But if you watch their actions,
No.
their actions are completely different
Agreed.
than what they're saying. So my key takeaway from here is when somebody's telling you something, yeah, listen to what they're saying, but pay attention to the actions that they're doing.
That's right.
So when I see actions like this, it tells me that his heart and his vision is in the right place for the company.
Agreed. 100%.
Other companies are increasing fees.
Yeah. Well, even then, like I heard this today, like somebody said that one of the companies might be decreasing profit share to a lower percentage.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, they are telling you that they like you. They are telling you that they want to help you. But those little decisions, like there's a guy making $1 million, those little decisions cut his income in half to $500,000.
That's right.
Because of a decision that is not really in alignment with helping the agents.
That's agreed. Yeah, 100%. And while companies are increasing fees and reducing what they give to agents, EXP is increasing and lowering boundaries.
Yeah, to make it more achievable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're bumping up levels 1, 2, and 3 to increase the AGI. Does that mean that you're going to get paid more on levels 1, 2,
I don't
and 3?
know. I don't know what that means.
That's something, like if he said that, that is big, bro.
Yeah.
That is almost as big as reducing the amount of agents to unlock all 7 levels.
We got to find that out.
We got to find that out, because if he is doing
what is it called? The A what?
Like, watch this. Listen to this part again. And this is the part that I was tripping out when I
Let's
heard
make it a little bit easier to get to the larger payouts, but then also at the same time, let's make sure that we're rewarding the younger agent that's in agent attraction as well. So we're kind of bumping up levels 1 through 3 payouts through our AGCI program, and then using
Levels
some
1,
of that
2, 3
other
through our
monies to go there.
AGCI program. What is AGCI?
Adjusted gross commission income. It's part of the rev share model. I just don't know what it means. So when he's saying that, what I'm thinking that means is that there's going to be larger payouts potentially on levels 1, 2, and 3. Or it means if you haven't unlocked levels 2 and 3, that they may pay more on the fact that even if you haven't unlocked the levels. That's what I'm thinking.
I think it's probably the second.
The second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's still
great.
big right there.
It's huge.
You know, like meaning if you have agents in your second, third, fourth level, like
Yeah.
without unlocking them.
That's good. But I think for us to get clarity around that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Really makes it a much more.
By the way, that was one of the things that went over my head.
Yeah.
Where when he said it, it didn't.
I thought he was
register.
referring to shrinking the amount of frontline qualifying agents, but that's a nuance.
This is
Because he said increasing levels 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Which means that he'll probably allow for more to be paid out if you don't have the full
frontline
qualifying agents. So it may not be the full amount, but it'll be more than what you were getting before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
which
dope.
is still big.
Yeah, it's big.
Once again, it's one of those decisions that is an alignment.
No,
with the
and
agents.
your point is so interesting. It's like when you have owners whose interests are in alignment, then you make different decisions, right? It makes me think about like Vanguard, or like, where they, all of the investors in Vanguard own Vanguard. So what they do is if there is a savings, they pass it on in the form of lower expense ratios for their index funds. So we all benefit. And this is precisely the formula that Glenn and the executive team is using.
Yeah.
Which is if there's a way, they're going to give back to the owners. And 70% of the company is owned by agents and their founders.
Say it again.
70% of EXP
70%
is
of the
owned
company.
by agents and their founders. So it's a truly owned agent, like an agent company, and they're part of the S&P 600, which I don't think people really understand how massive that is, because that's an index that you can't pay to get into, you can't politic your way into it. It's just based on economics and the way a business is run, and it's a self-cleansing mechanism. So people are familiar with the S&P 500. Those are the 500 largest large cap companies in the United States. And the S&P 600 is the 600 largest mid cap companies in the United States. And when I say self-cleansing, meaning like if a company doesn't fit the criteria anymore, they kick them out and bring a new one in.
Yeah.
But because of that, what's happened is that the average volume of stocks being shared went from $200,000 to $300,000 a day to $1 million. Because now all of these funds that hold the S&P 600, they have to own EXP. So when you put those all together, you have a company who is owner, kind of has an owner mindset. And if there is a way to redistribute more to the owners and provide more benefit to the owners, then they do that, versus other companies, as revenue has gone down because volume's gone down, they are constricting. They're putting more barriers and boundaries around, sharing, and they're also raising fees. We're here in Cabos San Lucas with some rock stars in the Elite Builders Nation. I wanted to get everybody together to have this conversation with you guys. We have about 90 years of real estate experience in the real estate business. We all came from various different backgrounds, different geographic locations. We also came to the same conclusion, which is that EXP, this model, this opportunity, really was the opportunity that we'd been preparing ourselves for our whole career. So I thought it would be helpful and useful for those of you who may be on the fence, who may be kind of behind a wall, and that wall could be thinking, that wall could be misperception in terms of what it actually is, to hear from those who have made that transition, whether it's 20 months ago like me, or within the last year like Jess, to see what was their barrier, right, kind of mentally, what was getting in the way. What caused you to actually see it, and then what your guys' experience has been since you made the transition. Mark, I know you, like me, owned part of a office and sold it back in order to participate in this opportunity. And I'm aware that requires a lot of intestinal fortitude. It requires you seeing more long-term value somewhere else. That's the only reason why you would do that, right? So, perhaps if you could share what was your kind of resistance to that at first? Because I know I wasn't the first person to have a conversation with you about EXP, and what caused you to see it, and then what your experience has been since you've made the transition.
So for me, the resistance was a 15-year relationship in being very comfortable. Very comfortable where I already was. And by nature, I'm a real loyal person. And so that's a 15-year relationship that it was a barrier for me to get past. And then I had ownership in the market center that I was in, and I started to see some of the financials and become aware that after you had made your transition. And so then I started watching real closely, and as I see the financials, it helped me see the writing on the wall, where the market started to shift, and now we had significant expenses. And I became very clear that it wasn't going to get any better. What helped me go beyond the barrier, quite frankly, was you. You were the tip of the spear, so to speak, that guided and let me see where the opportunity was. Because for a long time, I was on that transaction treadmill. Here I'd been doing real estate for the past 22 years. And what I observed was, here I invested in real estate, I invested in stocks, I invested in a title company and in a market center, and I still didn't see a very clear picture as to how I was going to get off that transaction treadmill.
And that's super interesting, because you did pretty much everything right, right?
Yeah.
You were getting small pieces of ancillary businesses or ancillary services, imagining that would produce enough cash flow where you could get off this transaction treadmill. And despite doing that, looking around, you were making some money.
Yeah.
It certainly was not enough money to support your lifestyle if you decided to stop selling real estate.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. And then after having been here a year now, what's interesting is, looking back, just if you look at the opportunity in stock alone that I've been awarded and that I've been able to receive at a discount, I've amassed about $33,000. Had I done that 15 years ago when I first started with the office, I'd have over $350,000. So it just, I was blind probably up until maybe even 6 months ago when I saw just how real it was.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I'm super privileged and proud to be in partnership with you.
Likewise.
Yeah, so, and Jess, what I'm aware of is for you, you made a pretty solid transition. I was actually coaching you at the time. You picked up, just moved from New Jersey to Texas, which is a pretty drastic cultural move. You didn't know a soul. That first calendar year, I think you did like 50 transactions, which is awesome, 52, something like that, 15 million in volume. And what was interesting is at the time, I believe I had a conversation with you, and you actually decided to go someplace else. Yeah. She's like, yeah. And so perhaps maybe walk people through what the barrier was in terms of thinking for you to like actually see it, and then what caused you to see it, and then what your experience has been, because you've really like blossomed and thrived in this model over the last, 15 months.
Thank you for that. So I have a quick question for Mark. Mark, you said that you used to own part of an office. Do you know how much your overhead was there?
Yeah, at the time our overhead was like $85,000 a month.
Oh, goodness. So in order for you to be profitable, you had to cover that.
Yeah.
Interesting, because part of your question was like why I decided to make the move and leave. I kept trying to grow a team because the only way I saw to grow, to be able to handle the volume that we wanted to do, was with collaboration, having other people involved. And I was constantly training my competition. And a lot of people get tired of that. Many of you have experienced it, where you've poured into someone, you've done everything you can, and now they're your best competitor. So I had that experience. Something to look out for is what he kind of touched on. There's a lot of brokerages right now who, in order to gain you as their agent, are going to offer you a sign-on bonus.
And that's what happened with you, yeah.
He's right. I was moving to a new market. I was leaving my financial stability in a partner, and this brokerage offered me a very healthy sign-on bonus. Be very clear, that is not your money. The minute you leave, you are expected to pay that entire bonus back. And even if you stay, at some point when you retire, they expect a part of that bonus back. It is not your money. So when I left to come to EXP, I was expected to pay back that full $100,000. I was also stripped of my pendings, and I was not allowed to take my active listings with me, and I still would do it 10 times.
Yeah, and I guess I'm wondering because, it's interesting because we were having a conversation as somebody who now has conversations with agents about, making transitions. And it's very interesting to me that the vast majority of agents do not read ICAs. What was interesting is Dan's been in business for like 25 years. He said to me out loud, he's like, what's an ICA? So it's what I'm aware of is that most agents don't read that. And they don't read the fine print in terms of, because what that model essentially is we're going to give you a payday advance. And we're going to have you sign a contract for a specific allotment of time. So that way you're stationary. It has a split that never caps. So you're going to give it all back to them, really, over time. And if you do decide to leave or want to transition, there's clawback mechanisms. And it's just that people don't read. We had one agent who made a transition recently, and buried 2 addendums deep was that if he left, they kept 50% of the pendings, right? So it's just something to be like aware of. At the same time, I'm also aware that for you at that time making that transition, what they offered you was like meaningful, right? So I understood why you decided to take it. And then what caused you to say like, okay, I am willing to walk away from a meaningful amount of money, a meaningful like pendings, listings, because I think that this opportunity is best long-term?
Because I kept hitting a ceiling. Probably a lot of brokers and team leaders feel that way, that they're almost stuck. Like we're doing all the things, right? Mark, you're doing all the things. Why am I still like struggling to break through the next, stage? And when you have children, or if you have a big, robust life, you don't want to stay in the same place forever. You want to grow. You want to constantly be evolving. And that just wasn't possible where I was at, in the model that I was in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then in the last, however many months it's been, 12 months, for the first maybe 6 months, we would have conversations. I have the good fortune, I've coached you for a while. And, you're focused on production, and that was going well. And then once the light bulb went off with regards to this attraction thing, in the last maybe 6 or 7 months, you've attracted how many agents?
45 total, and 6 have left.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
39 is the agent count right now.
We're agents. We like to make numbers sound bigger. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's dope. And what I'm aware of is now, instead of just selling something, now you're building something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's awesome. So it's a privilege and a pleasure to be in partnership with you.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, for sure. Back in. So I guess we can go now to Daniel.
Dan the man.
Dan the man. We've been working together for how long, Dan?
Since 2017.
2017. So what I'm aware of is like, this is really relationships plus value over time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and all of these are like meaningful relationships. I've known Mark for 15, 16 years?
16 years.
16 years.
And I know you because of Dan.
Yeah, so it's really cool how that works. I've known her since she's 18 years old, you know what I'm saying? So...
Yeah.
Does she still look the same?
Yes, yeah, in my opinion. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yes, good answer.
Better.
So you were at a very traditional kind of boutique, local brokerage firm. Being that you were at that boutique firm, I know they were big on like relationships.
Yes,
they were big
huge
on
relationships.
Huge on relationships. And you'd been there for a long time, no?
12 years.
Were they the only kind of initially in real estate? No, you've been in for a long time. So you were with someone else prior to that?
No, I came right out of real estate school and went right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're there for an extended period of time. And I'm sure, I have to imagine, because you were, producing, doing good volume, that other brokerages had approached you, whether they be franchises, perhaps EXP, other models.
They did.
And your mind was closed at that time, right?
Well, every time that I would get approached and would go to my broker there or the manager, they would match whatever I was being offered.
I see. Which, you know what I find really interesting about that, Dan? It's kind of like this thing, it's like, well, wait a minute, let me get this right. So you were taking advantage of me before, and now that I say I'm going to leave, you're going to give me a little bit better deal. Like, that's super interesting to me.
And that's exactly what happened.
So you kept doing that, and that kept happening.
Yes.
Right? And I guess that could have went on in perpetuity, forever. Mm-hmm. So what was the thing that caused you to see that there was something different?
We were having a discussion one day, and it was, I remember like it was yesterday. We took what I made with that company, and then you were like, this is what you would have made here. Yeah. And it was tens of thousands of dollars.
It was meaningful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And you're like, this is the opportunity.
Yeah, and then I'm wondering, because I know for a lot of people, Mark had mentioned it, like relationship. Yes. And I'm respectful of that, like I get that. I'm also aware that, it's a business decision. And as a business decision, so even though you saw the difference, did you immediately be like, okay, let's go? Or did it take a little bit to come to that conclusion?
It took a little bit, but here's what I'll speak of on that. So, because I know a lot of agents that are with that brokerage and another brokerage that focuses a lot on relationships.
Sure.
Events, they do get-togethers, dinners, bowling, all that stuff. And yes, that's important. Of course, camaraderie is important. But at the end of the day, I don't go to my job for camaraderie. I go to my job to make money.
Sure.
And when we just broke it down, it was like, look, you can still go this way, and if you want to like go and do these events with these people, that's fine. You're gonna make what you're making. You're not gonna be able to grow anymore.
Yes.
And take yourself and branch yourself out to whatever your goals and destiny is going to be.
Yeah,
and that's what I saw.
That's exactly right. So because in that environment, you were selling something, or you weren't building something.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
And really, what you were doing was building somebody else's asset. Because if they were to sell that asset, you wouldn't participate in that.
Yeah,
they'd be like, Thanks, Dan.
And I think at the end of the day, it was difficult for me because I had built a 12, this is 12 years we're talking.
Yeah, sure.
I knew them, and, you know, do I wish it could have been, you know, easier and more amicable when I left? Yes. But at the same time, it was a business, it was purely what you said, it was a business decision. I knew that if I was going to move and go where we are, that I would be able to branch out, coach, mentor agents, get the, you know, if I can better somebody else's life in a shorter amount of time than what I did, there isn't anything better for me, because again, and I say this a lot, I don't have a wife, I don't have children. Mm-hmm. So, you know, my why is every other agent out there that I know this model will benefit them exponentially just by taking advantage of what this model offers.
That's right. Yeah, you've been helping lots of people running the role play group for us for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So then you made that transition, right? Well, first you made a transition before that.
Yes, we did.
And then I came back to you like, I don't know, maybe
let's go there, exactly.
15 months later and was like, hey bro, I've been doing some more tinkering in the lab.
Yes.
I found something that's better. And I remember you looked at me on the coaching call, you're like,
I was like,
really, bro? Like, is that really what we're doing? And I was like,
I said, really? And you're like, yeah, man, like this, you got to look at this and look at this. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I was like, okay. And I took it home and I let it marinate for a few days. And I was like, listen, man, and this is where the relationships plus value over time comes in. If you've done the work, you personally, and are coming to me and are saying, Dan, this is a better way, and I've already taken advantage of it.
Sure.
There isn't anything else that I need to know.
Yeah.
Tell me where to sign, tell me where we're going, and this is where we're going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And I knew also as well, like, you know, I took 2 months to study it, right? To make sure, because I was just like you guys, like a very hard no, because I owned part of an office.
You owned an office.
So I figured, I was like, okay, I got this figured out, you know, like I'm good. But the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. And mine was closed for a while, and I'm so grateful that my brother from another mother, Jose, every time I would talk to him, which I talk to him regularly, at the end, guys, use these platforms, don't use them to consume, or just sit back and watch other people do it. You're on camera right now. They only see me on screen. I felt like I was around all the time. Stuck in that traffic too? It's like a tree. I'm like, who's counting?
Next time, bring a videographer.
What? I brought
No,
my camera.
bring a videographer.
Yeah.
If you want to go all in on media, it's required. You could go from like however many sales you're doing to probably like double, triple.
People just don't know about it.
They don't. The thing that's critical in media is not to position yourself as the hero, but instead to position yourself as a guide. If you think about stories, right? There's different characters in a story. The weakest person in the story is the villain. The second weakest person is the hero. So if I'm posting content, look at me, here's what I'm doing, here's a home I sold, here's a closing we had, I'm the hero. Instead, I should be thinking, how can I be perceived as a guide to help people to solve their problems? And the book that you need to read is Story Brand by Donald Miller. That needs to inform all of your media. Once you understand story branding, you realize how embarrassingly your media is just for you. Not for anybody else. Like, here's me and my kids. Here's me and my agent. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody's watching that, just so you know. Nobody. Like, your mom might be like, that's it.
Transferring that to post-con and things like, instead of just saying just sold.
You should say, here's the problem that they had. Here's the plan that we used. Here's them with the outcome. If you want more information, I'm going to call you to action. I want you to do something. Call me. So what'll happen now is people start to watch, like you were saying, you started watching content. But notice in my content, do I ever make myself the hero? No, I've sold 2,000 homes. I've attracted 350 people, but I never talk about it. So let's say you consume all this content. And then let's say I come out with a course on media. Would you see me as a guide to help you to solve your problem? And then you would give me money. Haha. Yes? Do you understand? That's how you do it. It's just understanding, like, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed woman's queen. If you could see some stuff that other people can't, it's incredibly advantageous. So everybody out here is blindly walking around making it about themselves. They're doing it completely wrong. And then they wonder why. Why is your channel blowing up? Because I'm a guide. I'm not some jester. Like you, instead of like, I think Kim Kardashian did people a huge disservice. You know what she pushed into the world? Look at me. You know what you guys need to be focused on? Listen to me, not look at me. Yeah, no, listen to what I'm saying. You know, I have coaching clients where I'll hop on, and I mean this lovingly, they're females, and I'll look at their content. I'm like, I can't tell what you're selling. Looks like you're selling something else. That's a different form of prospecting, team. Yes? They're doing it wrong, right? And I get it, like it's a form of power and you want to show that, but that doesn't position you as a guide to help anybody to solve their problems. It doesn't. Does that make sense?
And once Aaron told me about this, about the guide,
So he's the guy who watched 1,000 hours worth of content, clear across the country, called me on the phone and said, "Hey, never met him," and was like, "Yo, I want to partner with you."
100%. And he had a full like listing presentation that
On YouTube.
and like the link to the whole PDF or whatever was on there. And I followed it 100%. I watched his presentation like 100 times. Crazy.
Took listings.
And the first one was like a $1.3 million listing.
So to that point, the best way to show somebody you can help them is by for free. Because then you know what you start to think, bro, if he helps me for free, how much would he help me if I paid him? Or how much would he help me if I got close to him? Yes? In doing so, you're positioning yourself as a guide to help them to solve their problem.
Okay.
And then they'll reach out to you.
Before you guys finish up, should it be two different handles?
Yeah, so I think it's two channels because it's two separate avatars.
Yeah.
So like I do all of my stuff on one channel because my avatar is only agents.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a coaching program that we sell coaching and high ticket items, but then we do attraction. So we've brought 356 agents in 2.5 years, but it's because I position myself as a guide to help them to solve their problem. What is agents' problem? They want to do more deals. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. Now, I do believe that there's a very interesting blend. So I was just at the Pace actually invited me to this thing called the Clever Investor, Cody Sperber. I don't know if you know this. What was interesting is a lot of the wholesalers or people that do you, they would come up to me and they'd be like, yeah, we do like 20 deals a month. I'm like, great. How many offers you making? 300.
Yeah.
What are you doing with all the listings? Nothing. Then all the agents come up to me and I'm like, how many deals are you doing? They're like, this. I'm like, great. And I'm like, all right, what do you do when somebody wants something creative? Nothing. So the blend is both. So if you can position yourself as a guide to help agents solve that problem, you'll also build your downline, which will become the actual frictionless thing that makes the most money with the least amount of noise. Because it's a reoccurring stream of revenue where like the flipping and the whole whatever, it's just a mechanism to raise cash. But the purpose is to get to monthly reoccurring revenue in like multifamily or something like that. Because that's what creates time freedom and location freedom. Otherwise, I always have to be there. It's just another hustle.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, that's it. Awesome.
You.
Well, you're
Nice
welcome.
to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I think I'm like again, that perfectionist thing is more of a video. And
It's not. So I really want you to think about what I said.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the fear of failure in disguise. That's what it is.
'Cause
And it's not a video thing. It's not that. And it's putting too much emphasis on what people think.
Okay.
So in essence, what it is, lovingly,
No, you're good.
I'm
I got something to get.
I'm idolizing people's opinions.
Yeah.
I'm putting them on a pedestal. Where if you notice, and again, I mean this lovingly, did it seem like, thank you, you're awesome.
Good job.
Hey, did it seem like I cared at all what anybody thought? No. When I was up there, does it seem like I'm worried about how people are perceiving me? Not at all. And as a result, though, what I said is true. There are people in that room that didn't like me. I'm fine with it. But my tribe gets attracted to me. Yes? So you need to understand that, like, I know I'm aware, like, we grew up in environments where you're not supposed to stick out. You're not supposed to raise your voice. You're not supposed to say anything that people don't like. But in that platform, I have to be myself. And being yourself, you will cause people not to like you.
That's a lot. That's very true for me because I came from the corporate world.
Right.
And so I always had to be very
Prim and proper.
Yes.
Always look a certain way, always behave a certain way.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And what happens is I get a lot of static for it. They're waiting for me for a picture.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, yes, take care. And like I shared with you, is prior to coming to these, I know it's like fun. And people's ratio, I'm not suggesting it's true for you, but just in general, their ratio of fun to learning is usually like 80% fun, 20% learning. So
I did not come to do that.
having a ratio of like, hey, what do I really want to learn about?
Who do you want to meet?
Who do I want to meet? Who do I want to get proximity to? Like that guy I was just talking to, his name's Brandon. He came to the company. He has 22 companies. Yeah, but he deserves to wear the color shoes. So red. Like, well, I mean, your boys got them on too. He has 22 companies. He has a lending company that does $60 million a year in revenue. So there's like people walking around that are that, you know what I mean? And it's just like figuring out what do you want to know about, what do you want to learn about.
We're gonna think that through here in life.
Yeah, and we're gonna what's his name? There's a guy here who's getting ready to partner with us. He does 75 million in volume, 5,000 sales. He didn't come.
No.
It was interesting is that I texted him and he didn't respond. Like the day before, I was like, all right. And then he told me the day of, like the day, because he was supposed to come to our probate event. We did a lunch and learn. Yeah. I mean, I think that when people, particularly agents that are in high volume, there's a lot of it for them to unwind. There's like transactions and all this stuff. So it's like a little cumbersome, but I have no reason to imagine that he's not. So we'll see. Sometimes yeah. Exactly. You said no for 7 years, man. You know what I tell people when I'm teaching this? I'm like, okay, how many people have a significant other? They all raise their hand. I'm like, did you say yes the first time they asked? Usually the answer is no. Had to be like multiple attempts, right?
Yeah.
What's up, Rockstar? Hey, how is your... Come here. How's your husband doing? I believe that the future of real estate is what you're doing, which is where an agent will be able to provide multiple options and choices. And whatever option you choose, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I agree.
So if someone's
been doing it.
Yeah, no, and your point is because I went to the Clever Summit. Do you know Cody?
Yeah, I know Cody very well.
So Pace invited me there.
Yeah.
Morby.
Yeah, know Pace very well too.
Yeah, and I would have people come up to me, and the wholesalers. I would say, "How many deals are you doing?" They're like 20. I'm like, "Great." How many offers you making? 300.
Yep.
How many listings are in there? Probably 10. What are you doing with them? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Then all of the agents, which are like, "Hey, what do you do if somebody says they want a cash offer or something creative?" Nothing.
Yeah, they don't know what to do.
They're both leaving them on the table.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So what I'm aware of, I told Pace because I was on his wholesale whatever hotline, and he was like, "Hey, why do you think our communities don't hang out with each other?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, a couple reasons." He was like, "Why?" I'm like, "Well, one, you guys kind of talk shit a little bit
Yeah.
because it's like all agents,
Well,
right?"
there's a lot of bad holes. There's a lot of people that do it. They give it a bad name. They don't do shit the right way.
Well, that, and I think we both have the same avatar,
Yeah.
which is a motivated seller,
Yeah.
right? But I think that they can learn from us on what to say and how to say it, salesmanship, and we can learn from them about creativity.
Yeah, but you know the one thing with Pace that I've said a few times, Pace is brilliant. I'm like, dude, no one can. There's very few people that can architect a deal like that. Do you know what I mean? It's
Because of his intelligence, his ability, capacity to do it.
It's like he's like, no, everybody can do creative finance, and I'm like, no, they can't.
No,
they can't.
Because most people,
because people can't see the roadmap the same way that you can.
Yeah. So the challenge is like he's a visionary, and not everybody is.
And by the way, he's a special human.
I know. He's been incredibly kind to me.
Not just that, like he's like if he was here,
a go-giver,
and
bro.
there was a line of 700 people,
he would stay the whole time.
He would stay and speak to every.
I know.
I've watched him.
I've watched him do it too.
Till 2:00 in the morning.
I know.
Like he'll do it till 2:00.
In terms of like community, it's wild. Yeah. And I'm aware that Pace built his whole community with media. Pineda the same. When I was on Pineda's podcast,
well, Pace was YouTube,
right?
Yeah.
And you know what I said at the meeting, which nobody people are like, "Whoa." 10% of all TV time now is YouTube.
No, I caught that.
7.8% is Netflix. Yeah. YouTube's more than Netflix.
Yeah.
So if that's what's true, like I think to your point, it's a lack of understanding that attention's more valuable than money. So what would you rather have, $100,000 or 100,000 subs on YouTube?
Yeah.
100,000 subs on YouTube all day long.
Yeah, because you're going to make it.
So this is cool to actually meet in person.
I think so.
Yeah, so we met initially in the digital world, yes?
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
The content was helpful to you. Exactly how was it helpful to you?
Yeah, so I was working to scale my business and I wanted to get better at my listing presentation. I'd been on a bunch before that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take it to the next level. And I think that I got a recommendation or I searched listing presentation practice or whatever it was.
Sure.
And then I saw Aaron's videos.
Yeah.
And I watched a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, and the videos gave you kind of tactical information that you actually used, deployed, and got good results, yes?
Yeah, so I had a $1.3 million listing presentation coming up.
That's awesome.
And I watched Aaron's video quite a few times on the listing presentation itself. And it wasn't just mindset, you know, you need to go in there and have positive affirmations. It wasn't that. It was specifically, tactically, this is what you say in this order. This is how you do so many assumptive closes.
Yes.
Because you need to close 7 or 8 times
Yeah,
to
to get
get
it.
someone to actually say yes.
Sure.
And I did exactly what Aaron said, and I got the listing that night. They signed it, everything like that.
That's amazing.
$32,000 check.
Love that.
So that was quite good. And that was specific tactical advice that I got directly from the videos that I watched.
And for free.
For free.
Yeah, which is
Completely
pretty
for
amazing.
free.
So, and then from that, you decided to actually reach out and have a conversation.
Yeah. So I reached out and we spoke, I think, maybe less than a month after that appointment. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm super pumped. You got great stuff. I
Yeah.
watched everything that you're doing. And we actually ended up partnering
Yeah, which is
really shortly
awesome.
after that.
Yeah, which is so cool. And then what I think is so awesome is that you're utilizing that same strategy, not only in your business, but also with a product that you created for agents. Yes?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So not only do I use exactly what I'm learning through Elite Builders and through Aaron's information that he is just passing out to everybody that joins and partners with us, but I'm using those same things to help my business and then help other real estate agents in their business grow and scale.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Well, that's terrific. Well, I'm super pumped to be partnered with you.
Yeah.
It's awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah.
And look forward to building this together, man.
Yeah, and even better yet, since I've joined Elite Builders, I've gotten probably 4 or 5 referrals.
Have you really?
From people in Elite Builders.
Oh, that's so awesome, dude.
And it's almost to my advantage. So even if you're not in the South Florida area or where other major Elite
because we're as clear across the country as we could possibly
exactly.
be. Yes?
I'm in Arizona and Oregon.
Yeah.
And, you know, Aaron's out here in South Florida.
Yeah.
So it almost works to your advantage. So if you're in a market that is completely away from where the major Elite Builders are at, I would implore you just to check things out, look into Aaron a little bit. And so not only have I increased my business just by learning what
how much
Aaron
have you, how much would you say you increased your business by?
Double.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good
more
for you.
than double.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I was doing good business before.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah.
But it's been really, really helpful. And so not only have I gotten great information, but I've gotten proximity to really smart, good people.
Yeah.
And I've gotten referrals just from joining this group.
Yeah. So even with referrals, separate from equity and separate from the rev share opportunity, it's profitable for you. You're like 100% essentially.
Oh, totally. I'm like really making out great.
That's awesome,
so,
man.
Yeah, if somebody's worried about just production, like just getting deals and everything, a great way is just having a great network because your network is your net worth.
Sure.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you've gotten from proximity is a really high level instruction that you can deploy. That's tactical, not, you know, I like to say a lot, people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics, right? You've also gotten an ecosystem, a community of people that are referring you leads and opportunities. And you've learned some things that have allowed you to create products and services that you're selling now.
Yes.
And you also have equity and rev share.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I don't see a downside.
Yeah,
actually.
I don't either. Yeah.
So I think if anybody is kind of on the fence, they should at least have a conversation and check out more deals. I guess I'm just curious though, if somebody is a new agent out there and they're not yet really established.
Yeah.
If for example you were starting over 20 years ago, right? What would you do? And where would you start? And specifically, how would you go about creating your business?
Yeah. So the first thing is I think I would do what you did, which is I would get proximity to somebody who actually knows.
Who's done it.
Who's done it. The challenge is that our industry is full of people, you know, we live in a time where you don't have to be competent in order to be known or to be famous.
Yeah.
So it's finding people who have a demonstrated ability, I would call them believable. They've done the thing that you want to do consistently over an extended period of time.
Yeah.
The second thing I would do is stack my time on top of the skill of knowing how to sell. It's the specialized knowledge of this business.
Yes.
Right? So what to say and how to say it, which you went down that route.
Yeah.
Watching, I think, 100 hours worth of videos.
Yeah.
Writing stuff out, right? And learning how to set appointments, pre-qualify appointments, go on appointments, handle objections, and close. And spending a lot of time learning that and getting into an environment like we have a role play group that guarantees role play partner 5 days a week, but getting into an environment where you can be applying that specialized knowledge that you're learning, because that's where the magic happens. And then the last thing I would say is it kind of goes back like as far as like community, get around people that are like-minded, that are going down the same path, trying to do the same thing. And if you do all of those things with a high degree of probability, you'll be successful.
Yeah. What I found is that you were obviously a really great salesperson in your career.
Yeah.
And those tactical pieces of advice that you've given me have helped me become a better salesperson. Now, what I'm aware of is probably what you're aware of is that combining the sales skills
Yes.
with a great marketing system.
Oh, it's lights out.
Because that's what I'm doing now is I have a marketing system where just probably 7 weeks ago, I spent $400 on ads. I created the whole system, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. $400 on ads. Lady comes in, she clicks on my ad, becomes a lead, watches my video sales letter presentation where I'm teaching her how to buy a house, this, that, and the other, self-books onto my calendar. We hold the appointment 2 days later.
Sign a buyer brokerage agreement.
Signed the buyer broker agreement. No objections.
Love it.
Because we handled everything in the video, which I wasn't there for. I was like watching a movie.
Sure.
While she's
Yeah.
while she's watching my video. And then within the span of 8 weeks, I'll have made a 20x return on investment.
That's fantastic.
So
Good for
I
you,
think
man.
that's like really, really cool. And I want that for more agents.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is combining everything you're teaching
with that
a marketing system
Correct.
and putting them together.
Because those two together are what's required if you want to scale and do business in a way that's more like leverage and more efficient.
Yeah. Because I have been a cold caller as I know you have as well, but it's 1-to-1.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people that you have to sort of sort through to get to people that want to transact
That's
and
right.
do business.
Yeah, and because media is a mechanism that allows me to speak one to kind of infinitely many, it's a great generator of leads, and then you can walk them down that system.
And what I found is you're attracting people. So I feel like you attracted me to your content.
Yeah, because I didn't pick up the phone and call.
No, you never called me. You never had to like take me out to coffee.
No,
as a lot of other agent attractors are doing. None of that.
Uh-uh.
You posted digital real estate on YouTube.
Sure.
I went to it. I binged all the content.
Yep.
And now I'm here. We're partnering together and we're working. So,
I love that, man.
Yeah. So I really want to say I appreciate all your work.
Yeah.
I appreciate the organization you built.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm just like really excited to be an elite builder.
Same, dude. I appreciate you, man. Yeah. My name is Aaron Novello. I am from sunny South Florida. Right here is our hometown. YouTube is where it's at, dude. And it's what Pineda told me 3 years ago. He was right. Remember that guy yesterday? He asked what's the best platforms? I'm like, you shouldn't be thinking that. You should be thinking building an ecosystem of attention, and each platform gives you the ability to do that with short form, medium form, and long form content.